Hey there, have you ever wondered why the UK's economy feels like it's been on a never-ending roller coaster ride lately? Buckle up, because we're about to dive into the twists and turns that have left Britain's economy in quite a state. It's a story filled with ups, downs, and a few unexpected loops along the way. Austerity and debt, the heavy baggage. First off, let's talk about austerity. It's like that strict diet you decide to go on after the holidays. Sounds like a good idea at first, but soon enough, you're dreaming about cake. The UK government, in its attempt to slim down its debt, went on an austerity binge. They cut spending on public services, which seemed sensible at the time, but it left the country with some serious hunger pangs. Then came not one, but two massive crises: the 2008 financial meltdown and the recent COVID-19 pandemic. Imagine being hit by a truck and then, just as you're getting back on your feet, another one comes out of nowhere. The financial crisis left us bruised, and COVID-19, well, that was the knockout punch. The government had to borrow a ton of money to keep things afloat, more than any of our neighbors. Our national debt ballooned, and it's still growing faster than anyone else's. Taxes and spending. The squeeze. Now let's chat about taxes. You know that feeling when payday comes and you're excited until you see how much the taxman has taken? The UK government's tax revenue is almost as high as it was during World War II when bomb shelters were in high demand. In an election year, this is a huge headache. No politician wants to raise taxes, but at the same time, they can't let debt spiral out of control. And public services? They're crying out for more cash. The leadership shuffle. If you think your favorite band changes members too often, consider this. The UK has had 4 prime ministers in the last 5 years. It's like trying to finish a group project at school when the team keeps changing. No wonder things are all over the place. Each new leader inherits the same mess and struggles to clean it up. The COVID-19 spending spree. During the pandemic, the government spent more money than any G7 country except the US. Picture this. £280 billion were pumped into the economy to keep things from falling apart. But here's the kicker. Most of that money was borrowed when interest rates were super low. It seemed like a good idea, like getting a mortgage with a tiny interest rate. But then, the energy crisis. Russia decided to invade Ukraine, sparking the biggest conflict in Europe since World War II. Suddenly, Europe's supply of Russian oil and gas got choked off by sanctions and trade restrictions. In the UK, heating your home this winter costs nearly 3 times more than it did last year. It's like going from a cozy fireplace to shivering under 3 blankets. The government had to step in with more financial support, adding to our already massive debt. Inflation and interest rates, the double whammy. The energy crisis sent the cost of living through the roof. Inflation soared, and the Bank of England had to crank up interest rates to try and cool things down. Remember when your mortgage payments shot up by hundreds of pounds overnight? That's why, for the government, it's like their mortgage payments on hundreds of billions of pounds of debt went through the roof. Debt repayments jumped from about £40 billion a year to around £100 billion. A £60 billion increase that's roughly the entire defense budget. With so much going to interest, there's less left for everything else, from healthcare to policing. Economic growth. Stuck in the mud. All this borrowing didn't exactly fuel a booming economy. In fact, the UK's economic growth has been pretty sluggish. Only Germany has grown less since the pandemic, largely because it relied so much on cheap Russian gas. The UK, meanwhile, has barely expanded past its pre-pandemic size. It's like we've been running in place while everyone else gets ahead. Productivity problems. So what's the fix? One big answer is productivity. Imagine working at an old-fashioned newspaper, then moving to a tech company. The tech company is more productive. You get more done with less effort. But for the UK, productivity has been a problem. After the 2008 financial crisis, productivity growth slowed down. Brexit didn't help either, hitting investment and growth, and then COVID added its own set of problems. The workforce woes. Here's another kicker. While other countries saw more people going back to work after the pandemic, the UK saw the opposite. More people fell into long-term sickness or simply dropped out of the workforce. It's like 1 million people vanished from the labor force. many claiming disability benefits or stuck on NHS waiting lists. This drop in workforce participation has been a major drag on the economy. The road ahead, a Herculean task. So, what does the new government need to do? They've got a Herculean task ahead of them. They need to get more people back to work, and not just any work, productive work. This means better training, more investment in technology, and creating an environment where businesses can thrive. If they can boost productivity, there's a chance to manage the high interest rates and bring down national debt. This, in turn, would free up tax revenue to improve public services and support those who can't work. Everyone agrees it's a massive challenge. But if the government can pull it off, the potential benefits are huge. It's like turning around a sinking ship. Tough, but possible. And the rewards? A more robust economy, better public services, and a brighter future for everyone. So next time you hear about the UK's economic woes, you'll know there's a lot more to the story. It's a complex mix of historical baggage, recent crises, and ongoing challenges. But with the right strategies and a bit of luck, there's hope on the horizon.